Okay, guys, so I'm going to just show you some basics on, just to remind you on how to do some different types of sketching. I'm going to start off with some isometric sketching. In fact, no, you know what? We'll start with perspective. Okay, perspective sketching, we only need to worry about two types. The first type is one-point perspective, so this is as though you're looking at front on at a cube, and then it's got like a bit of distance to it like that, a bit of depth. And you can have the same with, if you draw like another shape like this, the principle works the same. All the lines recede off towards a common, what we call a vanishing point. So yeah, and that just is at somewhere in the distance at the back. So yeah, that's basically one-point perspective. And then we have two-point perspective, which is then looking at something from, say, the corner. So it could be from like that corner there, and it's looking at what does that look like then. Yeah, what does it look like if it's from that corner instead? So it could be something like this instead. So yeah, two-point perspective has what we call two vanishing points, and the lines recede off into the distance in both directions. So you got them in direction Y and then direction X, like that. The verticals, Z, those are just parallel up and down, they don't change. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and yeah, start afresh. So here's how we go about drawing one-point perspective. So I imagine I've got an A3 piece or an A4 piece of paper here. I'm just going to get a pencil, and with a ruler I'm going to draw a flat line. This is what we call the horizon line. And then I'm going to draw a vertical down, like that. On the end of the horizon line, I'm just going to mark two X's. This is what we call the vanishing points. All right, so if we're just going to draw like a simple cube to start with, it might be that our intention, or in the exam, you might typically be given something like this, and they say like turn that into a perspective sketch, or it might be something like, we saw one today that was like a sort of bird box house kind of thing, like that kind of shape. I'm saying that's what it looks like from the front, and then from the side, it just looks like a rectangle. That's like the projection of it. So it's like, draw that in perspective. Now, the best way to start is by just simplifying it as a cuboid. So I would get my pencil and I would just darken it so that it's, yeah, it's sort of the maximum height for that. So it's the overall distance from the top to the bottom, and I draw back to the vanishing point. So in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put these in, let's put these in a slightly lighter colour. Yeah, that'll be a bit better. Okay, so I'm going to draw these back like that. And this is why it's a good idea to take a ruler into the exam. In fact, I wouldn't say it's just a good idea, I'd say it's a necessity to do that. Okay, now I'm going to mark the width. So if the little arrow shape of the house is going to be on the left side, I'm just going to do a vertical like that and think, right, the house shape's got to fit in there somewhere. Then the depth of the house is going to be a bit longer, so I'm going to put the end of the house at the back there. And then you just connect the tops of those lines to the vanishing points. All right, next we've got our cuboid. To be honest, you get in the exam, you get marks for doing that. You get marks for doing a cuboid. And this would be like a 4-mark question, so you'd only spend like 4 minutes on this anyway. Then what you do is we're just drawing the front face of the house. So I'm going to get my darker pencil now, and this is fairly straightforward. I just put a mark in the middle there, and I just do like a sort of angled line. If you want to be really accurate, you could do like something like this. So where that little the end of the diagonal meets the vertical there, you could do like a line like that, but if you want to, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, and then bring a line out to the front. And yeah, and then after that, you can just add in the verticals for the side of the house. Then wherever the corners are, then they need to be taken back to the other side as well. Okay, and there we are. And that would be good enough. So that would be lots of marks there. That'd be full marks. So we've got what we call crating going on. So crating is where you take a simple shape and you turn it into a more complicated one like that. Okay, so that is 2-point perspective. Now, if I was going to do 1-point perspective, I'd start the same way. I'd get my piece of paper and I'd draw a horizontal horizon line there. And then I'd draw a vertical line of symmetry down the middle. And I'm going to draw then, I don't know, like a square shape like this, something like that. Okay, the vanishing point with 1 point is only, like, there's only one, it's right there. So the corners of the cube, you just connect them back to the vanishing point, like that. And then you can just draw in the back of where you want the cube to be, and then you can just darken it up. It's a good idea to use what we call thick-thin line technique with this. So what that means is you vary up the thickness of your lines a little bit, so it can be quite nice to just add just a little bit of size or thickness to once you've got your shape in place. And this just helps to differentiate it from the construction lines that you're using. So I'm just going around just darkening up the very outside of the drawing here. And yeah, just sort of tidies the drawing up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Right, so that is sort of my basics of how to do stuff in perspective.